Why so many voters vote out of rage. I used to be close to somebody who one of their favorite expressions was, I can do whatever I want. That was always their excuse for everything. I can just do whatever I want. I have free will. And one day I finally said to the person, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Everybody has free will. But if you bang your head against the wall continuously, don't complain when you have a headache. Like, our lives are as good or as bad as what we make them, and our country and our world and our cosmos, as we start to travel to other planets, are as good as bad as we make it. Like, I'm not saying we come into the world a totally blank slate, but as humans, we've evolved over, hundreds of thousands of years to create what we have now. And obviously, we just had to work to deal with what we had to deal with in terms of playing cards that we were dealt. But we could have created a different world. We could have created a better world. We could have probably created a worse world. Now, in terms of voters, I have a podcast entitled Politics in 2050, because I think eventually we're going to get over this stalemate that we have of Democrats hating Republicans and hating Republicans hating Democrats and Democrats hating Republicans, and I explain how I think that can happen, as we evolve in our consciousness. And I don't mean that in a mystical sense. I mean that like in a technological sense and in a living sense as we live in the world. But in terms of why so many voters vote out of rage now, a couple different reasons. One is that we feel kind of ineffectual in our lives, and it gives us a sense of power to have something to rage against. Like, we know already, like in business, we can't really rage against the machine or rage against the man or the woman, as the saying goes, because we'll get fired. So we have to kind of, we just have to kind of internalize our feelings and bottle them up and do what we have to do. And in our relationships, we know that if we're selfish, that, no one's going to want to be around us. So again, we have to bottle it up. So there's so much frustration in the world because people, especially with the coronavirus and everything else we have to deal with, feel kind of like, they can't do what they want and their lives are so inhibited. I mean, we had a lot of voting rage before that. But to me, voting rage is kind of like road rage a little bit. It's kind of like you're in an environment and you feel like you have no control. People are cutting you off. You live in a world where, you don't trust your government. You don't trust your institutions. And you feel a lot of rage. The other thing is like a worldview. It's also like a lack of understanding that when we come into the world as babies, we kind of like think it's all about us, and we're programmed that when we cry, our parents come to us. But as we develop, we realize that, we have to see other people's point of view, not only our own. In my book, I call it moving from domination to discovery. When we're young, we just think we're going to impose our will on the world. And that's what road rage is. And that's what voting rage is. We're just going to impose what we want on everybody else. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be advocates for what we believe in, but I think there's a way to do it without like denigrating and without like feeling like we're taking sides and that, we're so much smarter than everybody else. We should, if you agree, have a little bit of humility and realize that like other people have a different perspective. And I think that what happens is, as I talk about in the chapter From Domination to Discovery, as we mature, we start trying to like going from like just imposing our will on everything to kind of like actually listening more to other people and winning hearts and minds. I mean, like to someone that just is very domination oriented, that seems kind of like, too esoteric. I mean, why would I want to actually reason with someone? Why would I want to listen to someone? It's kind of like in sales. Salespeople that are very immature, that don't really make a lot of sales usually, they just want to impose their will. They just want to be buy, 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 buy. It's so great. This is why it's great. This is, salespeople that are more mature, they get a lot more sales, talk less and let the customer talk more. They let the customer, be in charge and just ask them questions to help fill the need. They see themselves more as servants. It's the same thing with politics. They call it, what do they call politics? They call it service, political service. So it's supposed to be about service. It's not supposed to be about aggrandizement. I think a lot of people forget that. And what it is in terms of like Democrats and Republicans, like there's a couple other points about that. One is that we all bleed red. I mean, we all care. There's a lot of things that we care about. We all care about making our country, safe and secure. I mean, we have different ideas maybe about how to do it based upon our party. We all want to raise healthy, happy families. We all want to have prosperity for ourselves and for other people. And we all bleed red, meaning that the same things that hurt me hurt you. And we all bleed green, meaning that we want to have prosperity. So there's really a lot that we have in common, even if our political beliefs are different. And I think that, I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm only going to tell you what I believe. Like, I actually am an independent because I believe that I don't believe in moral equivalency, that every idea is as good as every other ideas, because I believe in an idea meritocracy, that some ideas are better than others. But I do think that there's ideas on the left that make sense, and there's some ideas on the right that make sense, at least to me. And I'll explain briefly what that is. And this is why I'm an independent. On the right, I think that, the idea of personal responsibility and initiative, like I believe in capital markets. I do believe in guardrails because I think sometimes markets get predatory and it becomes like winner take all. And it's kind of like they just shut down competition, like Facebook is being sued now for that. And Google, I believe, as well. But, but also governments, they can have overreach as well. Governments can become too powerful, and they often do, but or sometimes at least. But, so I believe like the conservative principle, and I don't know if it's even conservative, but more Republican principle or whatever, that, we should reward initiative. We should reward market dynamics, that if someone works really hard, they should get rewarded. Because if you don't reward, it's kind of like if you raise a child and it's like they could just do whatever they want. They'll just be like eating candy bars all day, sitting on the sofa playing Nintendo, not going to school, not having friends, not spending any time outdoors, not coming to the dinner table, not picking up their clothes, not washing their face or taking a shower. I mean, it's easier just to sit around and do nothing and be selfish and just be mean to people. I don't know if it's necessarily easier, but if you're raised that way to not actually have any discipline, they say self-discipline is the master skill that makes all the other skills possible, and I believe that. So, I believe in the Republican idea of like, self-determinism, that, you have to have initiative and that initiative should be rewarded and markets are a good thing and capitalism is a good thing. There's a famous saying that capitalism is is the worst system in the world, except for the worst economic system in the world, except for everything else. And I think that's, true. There's so many flaws in capitalism, but the other economic systems have been proven to be worse that we've had so far. So, but I believe some things on the left also. Like I believe that it does take a village or a community. Like I think, it's good we have public schools. It's good we have public roads. People don't accomplish much in life on their own. It's like if you didn't have schools that were public, I mean, some people go to private schools, I realize that. But if you didn't have roads, if you didn't have bridges, if you didn't have other kinds of, if you didn't have police and fire, and all the other public goods, you wouldn't make it very far. If you didn't have parents to help you, if you didn't have friends and siblings and coworkers and employees, I mean, who can come into this world and make it by themselves? No. I mean, even people that own big companies, they rely on their employees and they rely on their customers. So I believe in like the idea on the left that we're all in this together and we all have to help each other. But I believe in the idea on the right that, we should also think as individuals and be rewarded for the hard work and the good results that we do. Because like if you're producing a product that 10 million people are buying, and you're not making any more money than anybody else, then, why are you spending, it's like people want to complain, but they don't want to do it. There's two ways to succeed. One way to succeed is to build the tallest building in town. And the second way to succeed is to like cut down everybody else's building. A lot of people like that famous, I think it was Theodore Roosevelt said, the man, which is also the woman in the arena, that people want to criticize and throw stones. It's like they don't want to actually do the hard work to build a billion-dollar company themselves. They just want to say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I learned in business and in life that you should never, articulate a problem, really, unless you have a solution to go with it, and a solution that actually involves some degree of sacrifice from everybody working together, because people think they're geniuses because they can identify problems. Any idiot can identify problems because the problems are so glaring. But to actually, come up with solutions, is genius level too. But a higher level of genius that's even needed is to invest yourself into like being part of the solution. And they say that anybody that's not part of the solution is part of the problem. Because I think a lot of people, they don't want to like get off the couch and actually be part of the solution. They just want to like criticize everybody else. And I think, the last thing I'll say about voting rage is that we're in this world to love. We're not in this world to hate. We're not in this world to like denigrate. And anybody that wants to have a good life and be an evolved person has to, work on their attitude. Like they say that your attitude determines your altitude. And if you're a person that's like, I'm right and you're wrong, so the way society is set up now is that everybody goes into echo chambers. Like if you're more conservative, you might watch Fox News or Breitbart or whatever. If you're more liberal, you might watch CNN. And nobody wants to actually, they want to engage to tear people down, but they don't want to. I'll just say one more thing about this. Excuse me. I was a really good athlete. In college, I was actually all East United States, and in track and cross country. This was in track actually, but they taught me that you can't run very fast, because my form was not that good. I could probably even run faster, but I worked on it. You can't run that fast going forward if all your motion is going side to side, because it's like you have a certain amount of energy, and if your energy is being misdirected towards going side to side, you don't have as much energy to go forward. It's the same thing with politics. Like if all our energy is going side to side, and when Republicans hate Democrats and Democrats hate Republicans, that's side to side energy. And that distracts us from going together, like as a nation. Like if we're fighting with each other and all our energy is going into fighting, and sometimes divided government is good because like checks and balances. Like I'm not saying everything should be smooth sailing, but even when you have checks and balances, people should be trying to form like checks and balances, yes, but also ways to work together. Like the judiciary is not the enemy of the legislature. They're trying to interpret, what the legislature, what their intent is. The executive is not the enemy of the legislative. They meet together, they're supposed to work together. So there are checks and balances, yes, but it's important that we learn that if we have all the side-to-side motion, like if we're a country that's always fighting each other and another country is fighting each other a lot less, that other country is going to get so much far. It's like a company. If a company has too much politics and they're all fighting each other, they're not concentrating on the customer. That's why Amazon, they're smart. They say they put a chair in the room and they say that, we're here for the customer. And all decisions have to be made for that, because some companies have so much politics that they don't even think about the customer. And some voters have so much like antipathy to the other side, they don't even think what's good for the country. They just think about scoring political points and winning out over the other side.